A few weeks before our wedding, my fiancée looked me dead in the eye and told me I wasn't man enough for her. She laughed like it was nothing, a harmless jab. I laughed too, but only on the outside. Inside, something clicked. I decided right then I wouldn't argue. I wouldn't defend myself. I'd let her think she'd won the moment, and then I'd let the bachelor party decide. What happened that night didn't just change how she saw me. It changed how everyone saw us. Before all of this, I thought we were solid. We'd been together for almost 3 years, and for the most part, we fit. She was the louder one, always the center of attention, while I was more laid back, happy to let her take the spotlight. She loved banter, little competitive jabs. In the beginning, it felt playful, like part of our chemistry. She'd call me Grandpa if I went to bed early, or roll her eyes when I took my time making a decision. I'd shrug it off, thinking it was harmless. But over the months leading up to our wedding, something shifted. The jokes started landing harder, with more people watching. Friends, her coworkers, even her cousins. She'd find a way to toss me under the bus in front of them. And the worst part? People laughed. I kept telling myself it was my own insecurity, that maybe I was being too sensitive. But then came the night that set everything in motion. We were at a friend's engagement party, one of those rooftop bar deals where the drinks are overpriced and the music is too loud to actually talk. A couple of us were trying to open a ridiculously tight bottle of champagne. I gave it a shot, but the cork wouldn't budge. She took one look at me and said, loud enough for the whole group to hear, "God, you're not even man enough to open a bottle." The laughter was instant. Her friends doubled over. Even a few of mine chuckled awkwardly. I smiled, because what else do you do? But my jaw tightened so hard I thought my teeth might crack. That should have been my first red flag. But it wasn't the first time she'd done it, and I knew it wouldn't be the last. The next morning, I couldn't shake it. Not because of the cork, but because she didn't apologize. Not even a sorry, I didn't mean it like that. Just nothing. Like it was too normal to even notice. That's when a different part of me woke up. The part that doesn't want to win an argument. It wants to win the whole damn story. The bachelor party was already planned. My best man had locked down a bar for us, and I knew she'd hear about whatever happened there. She might even show up. It was her style. And if she did, I wanted her to leave with a memory she couldn't spin into a joke. I didn't know exactly how yet, but I knew one thing. The verdict wouldn't be hers anymore. Little did she know, everything was about to change. The night it really started wasn't glamorous. No rooftop, no skyline, just a neighborhood bar that smelled like spilled beer and lemon cleaner. We were there for Ryan's pre-bachelor hang, a tune-up before my actual bachelor party, and the place buzzed with that Friday night hum where every conversation feels a notch too loud. Neon signs flickered. A hockey game muttered from the TV. My fiancée slid into the booth beside me like she owned the room. She'd already done a lap, greeting people, collecting compliments about the wedding. When she settled, she snagged my fries, tossed one in her mouth, and grinned at the table. "So," she said, "are we making sure Grandpa stays awake past 9 tonight?" Laughter. Not cruel. Not yet. But I felt the heat crawl up my neck anyway. 10 minutes later, the bar's trivia host announced a mini challenge. 2-person teams, 5 physical tasks, bar top party games basically, speed stacking plastic cups, a quick plank contest, grip strength with one of those arcade squeeze meters, a balance board, and a wall sit finale. Winner got a $100 tab. Easy fun. Harmless. "Babe, you have to do it," she told me, clapping my shoulder. "Prove you're man enough to hold a plank longer than a TikTok clip." The table laughed harder this time. That should have been my first red flag, because none of them looked at her like she'd crossed a line. They looked at me, waiting to see if I could take a joke. "I'm in," I said. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. Ryan volunteered to pair with me. Across the bar, 2 guys in company polos stepped up as our opponents. The trivia host banged a cowbell. Cups. Plank. Grip. Balance. Wall sit. First up, cup stacking. I wasn't amazing, but I wasn't slow either. Still, I knocked one stack and had to rebuild. Our opponents won the first task by a heartbeat. My fiancée cupped her hands like a megaphone. "So close, Grandpa." I smiled. Inside, my jaw locked. Plank next. The timer beeped. I hit the floor, elbows burning within seconds. Breathe. Count. The neon buzzed. Somewhere, a glass shattered and a waitress swore under her breath. Sweat slid into my eye. It stung. One opponent collapsed at 55 seconds. I held to 115. When the host shouted the time, the bar hooped. My fiancé slow clapped like a coach humoring a JV player. Grip meter. I squeezed. The needle jerked, sputtered, landed a few marks short of Ryan's. Not bad, she said brightly. For soft hands. That one pierced. Not because of the words, but because of the look, the casual assessment, the way she checked the room to make sure people heard. By the time we reached the balance board, my legs trembled. I won that round by pure stubbornness. The score tied. Final task, wall sit. Thighs against plaster, knees at 90, backs flat. The host counted us in. The bar leaned forward like a single body. I focused on a chipped corner of the dartboard and tried not to think about anything else. 30 seconds. My legs burned. 45. The air felt thick, stale. 55. Someone yelled my name. I swallowed a breath wrong and coughed. My opponent smirked and, without breaking form, said, "You good, man?" At 65 seconds, he nudged the wall with his shoulder, casual, like he had more to give. My thighs screamed. A muscle in my left quad twitched and seized. Not now. Not here. I bit down hard enough to taste metal. "Come on, babe," my fiancé called. "Show us that big strong." I didn't hear the rest because the opponent broke form first, knees buckling. The bar erupted. I stayed in place 3 extra seconds, then pushed off the wall like it hadn't hurt at all. The host lifted my arm like I'd won a title fight. Ryan slapped my back. The $100 tab was ours. My fiancée leaned in to kiss my cheek. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Look at you," she said lightly. "Maybe you are man enough for bar games." I laughed with everyone, because that's what you do. But something shifted behind my ribs, a small, cold gear locking into place. I could feel the room, the attention, the way the energy bent toward me when I didn't chase it. What I didn't realize at the time was that she felt it too. I took the mic from the host and, still breathing hard, said, "We'll use the tab on my bachelor party next week." The bar cheered again. She blinked, surprised. For the first time all night, she didn't have a line ready. That's when the idea stopped being a thought and became a plan. And I hadn't even told anyone what the real challenge would be yet. The week after the bar games, I noticed something different in the way she looked at me. Not softer, just calculating. Like she was measuring me against a mental checklist I didn't know existed. We still went through the motions. Wedding planning, guest lists, endless arguments about flower arrangements I couldn't tell apart. But underneath all of that, I could feel a thread pulling tighter. It started with little comments when we were with her friends. "You should have seen him at trivia, sweating like he was in the Olympics." Or, "Yeah, he won, but it's not like it was real strength stuff." Every time she said it, she made sure people laughed. I laughed too, because apparently that was my role. But inside, I kept replaying the moment at the bar when she'd gone quiet after I won. That silence was the first real win I'd had in months. A few days later, I got confirmation I wasn't imagining it. I was hanging out with Ryan, my best man, at his place. He tossed me his phone to show me a video from the last hockey game we went to. When I handed it back, a notification lit up from a group chat I didn't recognize. Her name popped up, followed by a string of laughing emojis. Ryan froze for half a second before locking the screen. "What's that?" I asked. Nothing," he said too quickly. I didn't push, not then. But as we played a round of Madden, I noticed him checking his phone more often, replying faster. Finally, during halftime, he sighed. "Look, man, I don't want to get in the middle, but she's been talking about you in the wedding party group chat." My stomach tightened. "What kind of talking?" He hesitated, then scrolled and turned the phone toward me. The message was right there in black and white. "Can't wait for the reception. Thinking of a little manhood challenge for him in front of everyone." Below that, one of her bridesmaids replied, "Like the plank thing? He'll tank. So embarrassing, LOL." I stared at the screen long enough that the text dimmed. My first reaction wasn't even anger, it was clarity. If she was willing to set me up at my own wedding for a public laugh, she'd already decided the punchline. And the joke wasn't just about me. It was about who she wanted me to be in the eyes of everyone we knew. Ryan put the phone down between us. "You okay?" I nodded slowly. "Yeah, better than okay." Because now, I had something I didn't have before, proof. Proof she wasn't just teasing in the moment. She was planning it. That meant I could plan, too. On the drive home, I thought about the bachelor party coming up in a few days. She'd hear about whatever happened there. She might even try to show up. If she wanted a challenge, fine, but it was going to be on my terms. By the time I pulled into my driveway, The cold gear inside my chest had started turning. This wasn't going to be about winning a game or proving a point. It was going to be about changing the way she thought she could treat me. And the best part? She'd never see it coming until it was already over. I just needed the right stage, and the bachelor party was perfect. 2 days later, the confirmation I didn't want, but definitely needed, landed right in my lap. I was grabbing lunch with Mark, one of my groomsmen. He's the kind of guy who can't keep a secret if it's even mildly funny. And I think that's exactly why my fiancée liked having him in her orbit. We were halfway through our burgers when his phone buzzed. He glanced down, smirked, and said, "Oh man, you're not gonna like this." I set my fries down. "What now?" He turned the screen toward me. Another group chat, different from the one I'd seen with Ryan. This one had her, a couple of her bridesmaids, and apparently some of my own friends in it. The message at the top was hers. At the reception, thinking of making him try a real arm wrestling challenge. Loser buys shots for the whole crowd. Beneath it, a bridesmaid wrote, "Better make it 2 rounds. He'll lose twice as fast." Then Mark's own name popped up from earlier in the thread. LOL, poor guy. But yeah, I'm in. I looked at him, eyebrows raised. "You're in?" He winced. "Dude, it's just a joke. Everyone knows it's just for laughs." "Yeah," I said slowly. "Everyone always knows it's just for laughs until it isn't." I stared at my untouched fries. The reality clicked into place. She'd been laying the groundwork for weeks, maybe months. Every harmless dig, every crowd laugh, every friend who went along with it, they were all part of the setup. This wasn't going to be a one-off embarrassment. This was going to be a public spectacle, designed to get the kind of reaction she craved. And here's the thing. She didn't need me to lose badly for it to work. She just needed me to look less in front of everyone else. One strained grunt, one stumble, one awkward laugh, and her story was complete. I could feel that cold gear inside me turning faster. I slid Mark's phone back to him and took a sip of water. "Do me a favor," I said. "Don't mention this to her. At all." He nodded, probably thinking I was embarrassed. He had no idea. That night, I lay in bed beside her, the glow of her phone screen lighting up her face. She was scrolling, smirking at whatever her friends were posting. I didn't ask. I didn't need to. Instead, I closed my eyes and pictured the bachelor party, the music, the noise, the eyes on me. I imagined her face when whatever she'd planned for the wedding suddenly looked small compared to what I'd set in motion. Because now I wasn't just aiming to win. I was aiming to own the narrative. She wanted a public moment? I'd give her one. But it would be mine. I waited until her breathing went slow and steady, then slipped out to the living room. Sat at my laptop. Started making a few calls, sending a few messages. The pieces began falling into place, the kind you can't undo once they're set. By the time I shut the screen, I knew exactly what I was going to do. And the craziest part? She was going to help me pull it off without even realizing it. I just had to make sure the bachelor party was something people would talk about for years. The real punch in the gut came 3 nights later. I was at Ryan's place again, this time to finalize the bachelor party headcount. We were tossing ideas around, bar crawl, poker night, maybe even renting a little event space, when he pulled out a folded piece of paper from his hoodie pocket. "Got this from Jenna," he said, sliding it across the table. I frowned. "Why's my fiancée giving you printouts?" He smirked, a little nervous. "Because she thinks I'm on her side. She wanted my feedback." I unfolded it and felt my jaw clench. It was a mock schedule for our wedding reception. Cute titles for each segment, little doodles in the margins, and right there at 9:15 p.m., between the cake cutting and the first dance, was a block in bold letters. "The Manhood Challenge, hosted by bridesmaids." Underneath, in parentheses, "Bride versus groom in a friendly test of strength and endurance. Loser makes a speech." I didn't need to guess what kind of friendly she had in mind. In her world, friendly meant a setup so lopsided it would make the crowd howl. Ryan watched me read, then said quietly, "She told me she wants to spice up the reception. Said it'll be unforgettable." Unforgettable, sure. For all the wrong reasons. It wasn't just about me anymore. It was about the tone she wanted for our wedding. She wasn't picturing a celebration. She was picturing a roast, with me as the headliner. And that meant she'd been working on this for a while, planting seeds with her friends, making sure the punchline landed in front of every single person we knew. I ran a hand over my face. "She really put it in the schedule." Ryan nodded. "I'm guessing you don't want to play along." "Oh, I'll play," I said. "But not her game." That was the moment my plan stopped being a vague idea and became something sharp. She'd set the stage at the reception. I'd set mine at the bachelor party. And if I did it right, by the time the wedding rolled around, her challenge would look like a bad rerun no one wanted to watch. I spent the rest of the night with Ryan going over details. I wanted something physical, sure, but not predictable. I wanted it to be a test that looked impossible until it wasn't. Something that would get the crowd roaring and leave no room for her usual "yeah, but" lines. We landed on a hybrid endurance stunt Ryan's gym buddies swore would level even the cockiest guy in the room. I'd have a week to train, and every second of it would count. When I left his place, the folded schedule was in my pocket. I wasn't angry anymore. I was focused. She wanted a show. I'd give her one so good, it would rewrite the script for the rest of our engagement. And the best part? She'd walk into that bachelor party thinking it was just another night for the guys. But when she walked out, she'd know exactly who she was dealing with. The next morning, I woke up before her. Sunlight was leaking through the blinds, turning the room gold. But all I could see was that bold black text from her reception schedule. The Manhood Challenge. I'd memorized the font without trying. She was still asleep, one arm sprawled across my side of the bed. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. I didn't touch it. I didn't need to. I already knew the kind of messages that were piling up. Instead, I slipped into the kitchen, made coffee, and sat at the table with my notebook. Yeah, an actual notebook, because if I typed this out, I'd risk someone seeing it. I wrote 2 columns. Column A, her game. Cheap physical stunts, crowd stacked in her favor, my image shrunk down to something she could mock. Column B, my game, a challenge no one could spin, one where the win was undeniable, one where she'd have to swallow every joke whole. Here's where the internal debate kicked in. Part of me thought, why not just call her out? Tell her you know. But that wouldn't work. If I confronted her, she'd laugh it off, call me paranoid, and then double down on the bit. No, the win had to happen in real time, in front of witnesses, so she couldn't twist it later. The other part of me hesitated. This was supposed to be my bachelor party, a night for fun, not strategy. Did I really want to turn it into a proving ground? I stared at the coffee steam until the answer formed. Yes. Because this wasn't about being man enough. It was about taking back the narrative she'd been writing for months. If I didn't do it now, the wedding would be the final act of a play I didn't audition for. By noon, I had a rough plan. Ryan would host. We'd set it up like a surprise main event halfway through the night. The stunt would be an endurance circuit, weighted carries, grip holds, and a final static squat hold that would melt the legs of anyone untrained. I'd be training in secret every day until then. That night, I texted Ryan. Lock in the gym space for Thursday and Friday. I need to work without her knowing. He replied instantly. Done. You want me to invite her? I smirked at the screen. Absolutely not. Back at home, she was in the living room with her laptop, watching some reality wedding show. She looked up when I came in. Babe, what do you think about adding a surprise activity for the reception? The irony almost made me laugh. I think surprises can be fun, I said carefully, as long as everyone's in on the joke. She tilted her head, studying me. Good answer. That look she gave me, half smug, half curious, only cemented my resolve. When I went to bed that night, my muscles already ached from the first training session with Ryan's gym buddies. It wasn't going to be easy, but then again, nothing worth doing ever is. In a few days, she'd learned the difference between laughing at me and being speechless because of me. The bachelor party kicked off on a Saturday night, just as planned. Ryan had booked out the back half of a local bar. High ceilings, exposed brick, dim lights that made everything look a little more dramatic. A live band played in the corner, and the smell of fried food clung to the air. It was loud, warm, and exactly the kind of place you could get away with something big without it feeling staged. I showed up late on purpose. Let everyone settle in, let the drinks flow. The more relaxed they were, the more electric the reveal would feel later. About time, Ryan called out when I walked in. He shoved a beer into my hand and clapped me on the back. We're doing warm-ups before the main event. The warm-ups were little bar challenges, darts, shuffleboard, a couple of drinking games. I played along, keeping my energy casual. I won a few rounds, lost a few on purpose. You can't look too eager before the real thing. About 40 minutes in, someone yelled, "Plank challenge." I looked at Ryan, who gave me a subtle nod. This was the decoy, something easy to let them think they'd seen the best of me. We cleared a space on the floor, lined up 4 of us. and hit the timer. The first guy dropped at a minute. The second followed 30 seconds later. I stayed in, trading light banter with the crowd. At 2 minutes, I gave up, rolling to my side like I was done for the night. Laughter and mock applause followed. "Hey, better luck at the wedding, man," someone joked. Perfect. Let them think I'd peaked. The night rolled on with more small games, more beer, more noise. By the time Ryan tapped the mic at 10:30, the room was buzzing. "All right, everyone," he said. "We've got one last thing before we call it a night. Something a little more serious." Heads turned. Phones came out. I stayed in my seat until he called my name. "This," Ryan continued, "is a test of strength and endurance. We're doing 3 stages. The winner takes bragging rights for life." A couple of guys groaned dramatically. "Man, I'm too drunk for this," one laughed. We started with the first stage. A farmer's carry with heavy kettlebells from one end of the room to the other, multiple laps. I took it slow, not showy, but steady. I finished first, but not by much. Enough to look capable, not enough to look unbeatable. The second stage, grip holds with thick metal bars. My forearms burned, but I let one guy edge me out by a second. He celebrated like he'd won the whole night. Ryan grinned. "All right, final stage, the squat hold. Knees at 90, back against the wall, last man standing wins it all." I took my position, muscles already humming from the carries and holds. Around me, the chatter quieted. The first man dropped at 45 seconds. The second at a minute. That left me and the guy who'd beaten me in the grip hold. At 90 seconds, my legs shook, on purpose. I let the crowd think I was at my limit. Then he faltered, face tightening, and at 1:30, his knees buckled. The bar roared. Ryan declared me the winner. Beers were shoved into my hands, pats on the back all around. My fiancée wasn't there, but I knew she'd hear about it. And that's exactly what I wanted her to think, that this was the big finish. She had no idea this was just the rehearsal. I figured the bachelor party win would trickle back to her in a few days. What I didn't figure was that she'd decide to crash the next one. Yeah, the official bachelor party was supposed to be just the guys. But 2 nights later, Ryan texted me while I was at the gym. "Heads up, she's coming tonight with her bridesmaids. Says she wants to surprise you." I read it twice, my pulse spiking. This wasn't part of the plan. I'd been counting on controlling the environment, keeping her on the sidelines until the wedding. Now she was walking straight into the middle of it. When I got to the bar that night, a smaller, trendier spot than before, she was already there, parked at the high top with 2 of her bridesmaids and a drink in hand. The look on her face wasn't innocent. It was curated, the same smirk she wore when she was about to deliver a killer one-liner at my expense. "Babe," she called, like we'd bumped into each other by accident. "What are the odds? Bachelor and bachelorette in the same place." Her friends laughed. My guys looked at me, waiting for a cue. "Small world," I said, keeping my tone even. She leaned in just enough for her voice to carry to the nearest tables. "You up for a little challenge? Just to keep the party interesting." There it was. No warm-up. No subtle setup. She was cutting straight to it. Ryan tried to intercept. Maybe let the groom relax tonight. But she was already flagging down the bartender. "We'll need some space, and maybe a couple of chairs," she said. "Trust me, this'll be fun." Fun for her, if it went the way she wanted. The challenge she proposed was simple on paper. A mixed endurance test. Plank, push-ups, and then holding a full pint of beer at arm's length without spilling. Loser had to down the beer and buy a round for the table. The crowd ate it up. People moved to make room. Phones were out again. I took my place opposite her chosen champion, one of the bridesmaids' boyfriends, a tall, wiry guy with a runner's build. He looked confident. Too confident. The plank started. I kept my breathing slow, my core steady. He fidgeted early, maybe trying to throw me off. Didn't work. Push-ups next. He banged out the first 10 like nothing, then slowed. I matched his pace, careful not to pull ahead too obviously. Finally, the beer hold. The pint was heavier than it looked, the glass sweating in the warm air. My shoulder burned within 30 seconds. He grinned like he could see the tremor starting in my arm. That's when I leaned into it. Let the shake get worse. Let him think I was folding. He straightened, maybe smelling the wind. And then, without warning, his elbow twitched. A single drop of beer sloshed over the rim. The bartender saw it. "Spill. He's out," someone shouted. The place erupted. I lowered my glass slowly, took a long sip, and set it down without spilling a drop. Across the room, my fiancé's smile faltered, just for a second. She covered it fast, clapping like she'd been rooting for me the whole time. "Looks like you win again," she said. But I could feel it in the air. This wasn't over. She wasn't done. And whatever she was planning next, I'd have to be ready to turn it back on her twice as hard. The problem with winning twice in a row is that it makes your opponent desperate. And desperation gets sloppy. 2 days before the wedding, I thought I was in the clear. My training had paid off. The bachelor party wins had made the rounds in both our circles, and I could feel the edge tilting my way. But that night, as I was packing for the hotel we'd stay at after the reception, Ryan texted me again. "She's adding something new to the wedding schedule. Just heard it from one of the groomsmen's girlfriends." My stomach sank. What now? The next message was a screenshot of an updated timeline. And there it was, wedged in just after the bouquet toss. The ultimate showdown, bride's choice. No description, no details, just those words, like a loaded gun waiting to go off. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the screen. This wasn't just persistence, it was escalation. She'd lost in her own ambushes, so now she was moving the battlefield to the wedding itself, where she'd control the crowd, the setup, the timing. That night, I barely slept. My brain kept spinning through scenarios. Arm wrestling with one of her friend's brothers, some bizarre obstacle course, maybe even dragging me into a dance-off I couldn't win. Each version ended the same way, her getting her laugh. By morning, the frustration had settled into something heavier. Doubt. I'd trained for weeks, outplayed her twice, and still she was finding new angles. Was I really in control here, or just reacting to her game? I tried to shake it off, went to the gym for one last session, but my body felt sluggish. Every rep was a reminder that no matter how ready I was physically, I couldn't predict every twist she had in store. That evening, she was in the living room, FaceTiming her maid of honor. She didn't see me pass by in the hallway, but I caught a snippet of the conversation. "Oh, it's gonna be so good. He has no idea. Everyone's gonna love it." The smugness in her voice hit me harder than any physical challenge could. I ducked into the kitchen before she noticed me, gripping the counter until my knuckles whitened. It wasn't just about proving I was man enough anymore. It was about whether or not I'd let her keep setting the terms of our story. I messaged Ryan. "We're changing the plan. I don't care what she's got. I'm not playing defense at the wedding." He replied, "Tell me what you need." And for the next hour, I laid it out. A way to flip any challenge she threw at me. No matter what she picked, I'd make it mine, and make her regret giving me a stage. But even as I mapped it out, I knew I was walking into a minefield. One mistake, one crack in my composure, and she'd win back the narrative in front of everyone. That night, lying in bed beside her, I kept my breathing steady, pretending to sleep. Inside, though, my pulse was hammering. She thought she'd set the trap, but in 2 days, I'd prove she was standing in it with me. The reception hall was buzzing, lights dimmed to a warm amber, the band sliding from jazz into upbeat pop. People had that post-dinner looseness, a little wine-heavy, ready for the night's fun. At 9:30, the DJ's voice cut through the chatter. "Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the ultimate showdown, bride's choice." The crowd erupted. Phones popped up. My fiancée was already in the center of the dance floor, microphone in hand, grinning like a cat that had found a cornered mouse. "All right," she said, her voice carrying over the speakers. "Tonight we're going to see if my new husband is really man enough to—" She paused for effect, milking the suspense. "Outlast me in a series of fun challenges." The room laughed and cheered. She motioned for me to join her. I walked out slowly, my face relaxed but my mind razor-sharp. I'd been waiting for this exact moment. First challenge, push-ups. She'd roped in 2 bridesmaids to count. We started in sync, the crowd counting along after 10. At 25, she faltered, arms trembling. I stopped at 26, hopped to my feet, and offered her a hand up. The crowd roared. Second challenge, a balance test, standing on one leg while holding a champagne flute. I let her take the more stable spot on the floor, like I was being chivalrous. She lasted 40 seconds before her ankle wobbled. I stayed still until the minute mark, then stepped down casually, sipping my champagne. By now, the crowd was into it. Some were cheering for her, others for me, but everyone was watching. Exactly what I wanted. Third challenge, the one she clearly thought would trip me up, was a carry relay, hoisting one of her bridesmaids across the dance floor and back without setting them down. She picked her maid of honor, who was petite, and flew through it. My assigned passenger was Ryan, grinning like he'd been waiting for this cue. At over 200 pounds, he was dead weight, but I'd trained for endurance and awkward loads. I got him across and back without breaking pace. By then, her smile was tighter. She tried to reset the energy. All right, last one, she announced. Wall sit. First one to stand loses. Winner gets bragging rights forever. We took our positions against the back wall, knees at 90 degrees. The burn started within 20 seconds. I could feel sweat on my neck, my thighs screaming, but I didn't move. She tried to taunt me, tossing little digs. I stayed silent. At the 1-minute mark, her breathing hitched. At 1:30, her jaw clenched. At 1:40, she stood abruptly, shaking her legs out and laughing like she'd decided to quit. The place exploded. I stayed down another 5 seconds, then stood slowly, raising my arms like a prize fighter. Ryan appeared at my side with a mic. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we've found our verdict. Man enough. The cheers drowned out everything else. My fiancée smiled for the cameras, but her eyes said something different, something that admitted this wasn't her win. I leaned in, just for her to hear. Guess the jury's spoken. And in that moment, I knew she'd never try that game again. Because you can't run the joke when you've already been made the punchline yourself. After the last challenge, the rest of the reception felt lighter. People danced harder, laughed louder, and every so often, someone would nudge me and say, "Man enough now, huh?" with a grin. I'd just smile and shrug, letting them come to their own conclusions. My fiancée, my wife now, kept up appearances. She laughed along when people mentioned the showdown, even told a few guests how impressed she was. But the energy was different. The casual, throwaway jabs she used to slip and weren't there anymore. No slide digs, no public corrections meant to make me the butt of the joke. Later that night, when the last of the guests filtered out and the band started packing up, we stepped outside into the cool air. The venue's parking lot was quiet, lit by a few scattered lamps. She stood there for a moment, arms folded, looking down at the pavement. "You really trained for that, didn't you?" she asked. I met her eyes. "Yeah, I did." She gave a small, almost reluctant smile. "Guess you got your bragging rights." "It's not about bragging rights," I said. "It's about respect. You wanted to make it a public thing, so I made sure the public knew both sides of the story." She didn't reply right away, just nodded once, like she was filing it away. Back at the hotel, I finally let the tension leave my body. My legs ached from the wall sit, my shoulders from the carry relay, but it was the good kind of pain, the kind you earn. I lay there thinking about the weeks leading up to this night, all the little comments, the plans she thought I didn't know about. I wasn't sure what the future of our marriage would look like, but I knew one thing. She'd think twice before trying to write my part in a story without asking me first. In the days that followed, the video clips started circulating. Guests posted them on Instagram, tagged me in Facebook posts, sent me direct messages with captions like "epic win" and "legendary groom." I didn't share them myself, didn't need to. The story had already been told, and the people who needed to see it saw it. At one point, Ryan sent me a short, grainy video from the end of the night. It was me holding that wall sit while she finally stood up, laughing to cover the loss. In the background, someone's voice cut through the noise. "Guess he is man enough." I watched it twice, smiled, and deleted it. Not because I wanted to forget, but because I didn't need to replay it to know I'd already closed that chapter. The wedding was over, the party was over, and the score was settled. Not with anger, not with shouting, but with a simple, undeniable win. And maybe that's the real lesson. Sometimes, the best way to prove your point isn't by arguing at all. It's by letting your actions write the ending for you. And when the right people are watching, that ending stays written. You know, looking back on it now, I think the wildest part wasn't the win itself. It was how quickly the whole tone of our relationship shifted afterward. People saw it. She saw it. And maybe, just maybe, she realized that some lines aren't as funny when the other person knows exactly how to cross them back. If you've ever been in a situation where someone kept poking at you, turning you into the punchline, I hope this story reminds you that you can take back the narrative. You don't have to yell. You don't have to fight on their terms. You just have to pick your moment, prepare for it, and make it count. Now I'm curious, have you ever had to prove someone wrong in front of an audience? Did it go the way you planned, or did it blow up in your face? Drop your stories in the comments. I read every one of them. And hey, if you want more true, first-person stories with twists you won't see coming, hit that subscribe button. You don't want to miss the next one.